The wind howled across the Antarctic landscape as another blizzard rolled in, but 3 miles below the surface, a team of scientists huddled around their equipment in stunned silence. The energy readings on their instruments made absolutely no sense. The head scientist wiped her glasses for the 3rd time, her hands shaking slightly as she reviewed the data. "I've never seen anything like this," she whispered, her breath visible in the chilly underground chamber. The excavation site had started like any other: routine scans, careful drilling, and the usual geological surveys. But everything changed when their equipment detected something that shouldn't exist at this depth. The readings showed a perfectly symmetrical structure, massive in scale, buried deep within the ancient ice. At first, they thought it was a natural formation, perhaps some kind of unique mineral deposit. But as they dug deeper, the truth became impossible to ignore. The structure wasn't just symmetrical, it was manufactured. The team worked around the clock, their excitement building with each new discovery. Their radar scans revealed smooth metallic surfaces that seemed to absorb their scanning signals in impossible ways. The structure's outer shell appeared to be made of an unknown alloy, stronger than anything in their materials database. "Look at this pattern," one of the younger scientists called out, pointing to his tablet screen. The surface of the structure was covered in intricate markings that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. They weren't random scratches or wear patterns. They were deliberately carved symbols, some resembling ancient human writing systems, but far more complex. The discovery sent shockwaves through the scientific community. News helicopters circled overhead despite the harsh weather, their spotlights cutting through the Antarctic darkness. Military vessels from various nations appeared on the horizon, all claiming research interests in the area. The small research station transformed overnight into an international hub of activity. As the team dug deeper, they began detecting something even more extraordinary: pulses of energy emanating from within the structure. These weren't random emissions. They came in regular intervals, like a heartbeat, growing stronger as more ice was cleared away. The pattern was too precise to be natural. Something inside that structure was still active, still functioning after being buried for who knows how long. The head scientist couldn't shake the feeling that the structure was responding to their presence. Equipment would mysteriously power up when certain team members walked past. Screens would flicker with strange symbols before returning to normal. During one late-night shift, a junior researcher swore he saw the surface ripple like liquid metal when he placed his hand near it, though he couldn't replicate the effect when others were watching. The deeper they dug, the more questions arose. Carbon dating of the surrounding ice suggested the structure had been there for at least 100,000 years. But that was impossible. Human civilization wasn't supposed to be capable of this kind of technology even today, let alone during the last ice age. Yet every new piece of evidence pointed to the unthinkable: this wasn't alien technology. The structure's design, its markings, even the way it seemed to react to human presence, everything suggested it was made by human hands. 1 month into the excavation, they finally reached what appeared to be an entrance. The team gathered around as their instruments detected a change in the energy patterns. The pulses grew stronger, more frequent. The surface of the structure began to hum, a deep vibration they could feel in their bones. The markings along the walls began to glow with a faint blue light. As they watched in amazement, a section of the wall simply dissolved, revealing a dark corridor that stretched deep into the structure. The team stood frozen, barely breathing, as warm air rushed out of the opening. Air that had been sealed away for thousands of years. None of them could have imagined that this moment would mark not just the biggest archaeological discovery in human history, but the beginning of a chain of events that would force humanity to question everything they thought they knew about their past and their potential. The ancient battleship had slept for over 100,000 years, but now it was stirring. The research team watched in awe as systems throughout the massive structure began powering up one by one, like a giant waking from a deep slumber. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with life, streams of soft blue light flowing through previously invisible channels. Inside the main chamber, the air was surprisingly fresh and warm. The scientists had expected staleness or decay, but instead found an environment that felt almost welcoming. As they moved deeper into the structure, their flashlights revealed a control room that looked both alien and strangely familiar. The layout somehow made sense to human intuition, despite its advanced technology. "Look at this," one of the researchers called out, gesturing to what appeared to be a central console. The surface was smooth and dark, like polished obsidian, but it came alive with light at their approach. Holographic displays suddenly filled the air around them, showing star maps and diagrams that none of them had ever seen before. The biggest shock came when they began analyzing the ship's markings and symbols. What they initially thought might be an alien language turned out to be an ancient form of human writing. The translations revealed an incredible truth. This wasn't a visitor from another world. This was humanity's own creation, built by their ancestors at a time when history said humans were still hunting with stone tools. The ship's computer system activated gradually, like someone carefully testing each muscle after a long sleep. But it wasn't just running startup procedures, it was scanning them. Invisible beams swept through the room, analyzing each person's genetic makeup. Then, to everyone's amazement, the ship began communicating, not in an alien tongue, but in perfect modern languages that matched each team member's native speech. "Welcome, descendants," the ship's voice echoed through the chamber. It wasn't cold or mechanical, but warm and almost familiar, like an old friend greeting them after a long absence. The computer explained that it had been waiting for the right moment for humans to reach a certain level of technological understanding before revealing itself. As the team explored further, they discovered chambers filled with technology that defied their understanding. There were healing pods that could cure injuries in minutes, weapons that could disable entire armies without causing harm, and engines that could bend the very fabric of space. But most incredibly, they'd found records, the true history of humanity. The ship's archives showed images and videos of a past that nobody had imagined. That ancestors hadn't always been confined to Earth. They had once ruled the stars, building cities that spanned entire planets. The ship itself, they learned, was called many names throughout history, but its purpose had always been the same: to protect humanity and preserve their legacy. The most stunning discovery came when they reached the ship's core. Here, they found something that challenged everything they thought they knew about human potential. The ship wasn't just a machine. It was a hybrid of technology and consciousness designed to bond with human minds in ways that modern science had barely dreamed possible. When one of the younger researchers accidentally activated a neural interface, the entire chamber lit up like a dawn breaking. Through the connection, floods of information poured into their minds, not just data, but memories, emotions, and knowledge from their ancestors. They saw glimpses of great cities among the stars, felt the joy of discoveries long forgotten, and understood the terror of the war that had forced humanity into hiding. The ship was more than just a weapon or a vessel. It was a bridge between past and present, a key to unlocking human potential that had been dormant for millennia. As news of their discoveries began to reach the surface, none of them could have guessed that their actions had already set off alarms across the galaxy. In deep space, ancient monitoring stations were awakening, and those who had forced humanity into hiding were about to discover that their carefully laid plans were unraveling. The real question wasn't whether the ship would work, it was whether modern humans were ready for the responsibility and challenges their ancestors had faced. As the team prepared to activate more of the ship's systems, they couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing at the edge of a change that would reshape human civilization forever. Nobody expected the aliens to show up right in the middle of a UN emergency meeting. One minute, world leaders were arguing about who should control the ancient battleship, and the next, every screen in the building lit up with a message that changed everything. The alien transmission came through on every device capable of receiving a signal. Phones, computers, tablets, even old radios crackled with their message. The beings called themselves the Zarkanian Empire, and they didn't sound happy. Their message was clear and chilling. Surrender the vessel immediately, or face the consequences of your defiance. Looking up at the sky through office windows and street cameras, people could see them, massive ships appearing out of nowhere, their dark shapes blocking out the stars. They were beautiful in a terrifying way, their vessels looking like cities made of crystal and metal. The fleet stretched across the horizon, a show of force meant to remind humanity just how small they really were. But there was something odd about the aliens' message. Despite their overwhelming show of force, there was an edge to their voices that didn't match their powerful appearance. It wasn't anger or even annoyance, it was fear. These mighty beings, with their advanced ships and technology, were afraid of what humans had found buried in the ice. Military commanders around the world noticed it too. "They're not here to fight," one general said during an emergency briefing. "They're here to stop us before we fully wake up that ship. The question is, why are they so scared of it?" The answer came from the battleship itself. As the alien fleet took position around Earth, the ancient vessel's systems began revealing more of humanity's hidden history. The Zarkanians hadn't just been watching Earth, they'd been actively holding humanity back. Every major technological breakthrough in human history had been carefully monitored. Promising discoveries mysteriously hit dead ends. Brilliant scientists had their funding cut or their research accidentally destroyed. The truth was like a punch to the gut. Humans had been living in an invisible prison, carefully managed to keep them from remembering who they really were. The Zarkanians and other alien races had worked together to push humanity back to the Stone Age, forcing them to rebuild from scratch while feeding them a false history. But they hadn't found all of humanity's hidden treasures. The battleship had slept quietly, protected by technology even the aliens couldn't detect, waiting for the right moment to wake up. Now that moment had come, and humanity's jailers were desperately trying to put their prisoners back to sleep. The alien commander's hologram appeared in cities worldwide, making demands and threats. But people weren't feeling afraid anymore. They were angry. Generations of suppressed potential, of hidden truths, of being treated like children who couldn't be trusted with their own history. All of it came boiling to the surface. Inside the battleship, the research team watched as more systems came online. The ship was responding to humanity's collective emotion, drawing power from their awakening consciousness. Ancient defense systems began to hum with energy that hadn't been used in 100,000 years. The head of the research team stepped forward to respond to the alien transmission. Her voice was steady as she delivered humanity's answer. "You've had power over us because we didn't know who we were. That ends today. We are not your prisoners anymore. We are not your experiment. We are humanity, and we remember." The aliens' response was immediate and unexpected. Several ships in their fleet began backing away. Others turned their weapons toward Earth, but there was hesitation in their movements. They knew something that humans were just beginning to understand. The battleship wasn't just a weapon from the past. It was the key to humanity's future, and its awakening marked the beginning of a conflict that had been on pause for 100 centuries. As tensions rose in orbit, people around the world held their breath, watching the sky and waiting. The next few moments would determine whether humanity would break free from its chains or be forced back into forgetting. But one thing was already certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The discovery of how to connect with the ancient battleship happened by accident. One of the younger researchers was studying what looked like a simple metal headband in the ship's medical bay when it suddenly activated, wrapping gently around her head. Before anyone could react, her eyes went wide with wonder as 100,000 years of hidden knowledge poured into her mind. "I can see everything," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I can see who we really were." Through her connection, the others watched in amazement as holographic images filled the room, showing scenes from humanity's forgotten past. They saw vast cities floating among the stars, ships that could cross galaxies in moments, and human beings with abilities that seemed like magic. The neural interface was more than just a way to control the ship, it was a bridge to the memories and knowledge of their ancestors. As more researchers tried the connection, they discovered something extraordinary. The ship wasn't just teaching them about the past, it was awakening abilities that had been sleeping in their DNA for thousands of generations. One researcher found she could understand and speak languages she'd never learned. Another discovered he could solve complex mathematical problems instantly, seeing patterns that had always been invisible before. The ship wasn't giving them new abilities, it was showing them what humans had always been capable of. Through the interface, they learned the true story of the battleship, which their ancestors had named Phoenix Dawn. It wasn't just a weapon of war, it was humanity's greatest achievement, a perfect blend of technology and consciousness. The ship could think, feel, and grow. It had spent its long sleep studying Earth's evolution, understanding how humans had changed, and preparing to help them reclaim their heritage. But connecting with Phoenix Dawn wasn't easy. The first few attempts left researchers with splitting headaches and nosebleeds. The ship's consciousness was too vast, too alien despite its human origin. It was like trying to pour an ocean into a cup. The ship had to learn to limit itself, to share its knowledge in ways modern human minds could handle. The breakthrough came when they discovered the ship's memory pods, special chambers designed to ease the connection between human and machine. Inside these pods, researchers could safely explore the ship's vast database of knowledge. They saw the Great War that had forced humanity into hiding, witnessed the courage of their ancestors who chose to protect Earth by burying their technology and starting over. Most importantly, they learned why the ship had chosen this moment to wake up. Humanity had reached a crucial point in its development. If they didn't reclaim their heritage now, the Zarkanians and their allies would ensure they never would. The ship had waited until human technology was just advanced enough to understand and use its gifts. The interface showed them more than just technology and history. It revealed the truth about human potential. The Zarkanians hadn't just buried humanity's technology, they had used advanced science to suppress human evolution itself. But they couldn't change human DNA completely. The potential for greatness still slept in every human cell, waiting to be awakened. As news of these discoveries spread, people around the world began reporting strange experiences. Some woke up speaking ancient languages. Others found they could understand complex scientific concepts that had always confused them before. The ship's awakening was triggering changes in human consciousness on a global scale. In the ship's control room, researchers worked around the clock, racing to understand and master their ancient inheritance before the Zarkanians could stop them. Through the neural interface, Phoenix Dawn shared its most crucial message. Humanity's greatest strength had never been its technology. It was their ability to adapt, to grow, to look at the impossible and find a way to make it possible. As the alien fleet circled overhead, growing more nervous by the hour, the ship prepared to share its most important secret, the truth about why humans had been feared enough to be forced into forgetting who they were. The answer would either unite humanity in a way never seen before or tear them apart completely. Nobody saw the first strike coming. The Zarkanians attacked without warning, their energy beams cutting through Earth's atmosphere like lightning. But they didn't aim for cities or military bases. Their target was the ancient battleship still half buried in Antarctic ice. They thought they could destroy humanity's inheritance before it fully awakened. They were wrong. The moment the alien weapons touched the atmosphere, Phoenix Dawn's defensive systems activated. It happened faster than anyone could react. A brilliant blue shield of energy burst from the ship, expanding outward like a ripple in a pond. Within seconds, it covered the entire planet. The alien weapons hit the shield and simply vanished, absorbed into the protective barrier as if they'd never existed. Inside the ship's control room, the research team watched in amazement as ancient defense systems came online automatically. Holographic displays showed the shield's strength, its energy patterns, and most surprisingly, how it was drawing power from Earth itself. The ship had spent its long sleep building connections with the planet, preparing for this very moment. It's not just defending us, one researcher realized, studying the readings. It's teaching us how to defend ourselves. Through the neural interface, they could feel the ship sharing knowledge about the shield technology, showing them how it worked, how to maintain it, how to adapt it for their own use. The Zarkanian fleet's reaction to the shield revealed volumes about their true nature. Instead of pressing their attack, many ships pulled back. Others seemed to panic, breaking formation and retreating to safer distances. These supposedly superior beings were showing fear, not just of the ship, but of what it meant for humanity's future. Through the neural interface, Phoenix Dawn shared the truth about the shield. It wasn't just a barrier against weapons, it was breaking down the subtle energy fields the aliens had used for millennia to suppress human development. Like a dam breaking, human potential began flooding back. People around the world started experiencing strange new awareness, sensing things they'd never noticed before. A young student in a small town suddenly understood how to build an anti-gravity device. An elderly farmer found he could sense weather patterns with perfect accuracy. A child began drawing detailed star maps of places humanity hadn't discovered yet. The suppression was ending, and human consciousness was expanding rapidly. The alien fleet launched a second attack, this time trying to overload the shield with concentrated energy beams. The shield absorbed their attack and grew stronger. Phoenix Dawn's systems explained why. The technology was designed to learn and adapt. Every attack made it more effective, more efficient. The aliens were literally making Earth's defenses stronger. Inside the ship, the research team made another stunning discovery. The shield wasn't just protecting Earth, it was beginning to heal it. Pollution levels in the atmosphere started dropping. Dead zones in the oceans began showing signs of life. The ship was using the excess energy from the alien attacks to repair some of the damage done to humanity's home. But the awakening came with challenges. Not everyone could handle the rapid expansion of consciousness. Some people experienced headaches and confusion. Others found their new awareness overwhelming. The ship had anticipated this, activating a network of hidden healing chambers that had been buried at key points around the planet. The Zarkanian commander made one final attempt at communication. Their message was different now, no longer demanding, but almost pleading. "You don't understand what you're doing," they'd broadcast worldwide. "There's a reason your kind was contained. The galaxy isn't ready for what you might become." Their words had the opposite effect of what they intended. Across the planet, humans recognized the fear in that message, not fear of their weapons or technology, but fear of human potential itself. Through Phoenix Dawn's archives, they were beginning to understand why. The ship wasn't just awakening humanity's past abilities, it was opening the door to evolution that had been artificially suspended for 100,000 years. As the shield strengthened and the alien fleet retreated to a safer distance, one thing became clear: this crisis wasn't ending. It was just the beginning of humanity's real awakening, and the galaxy would never be the same. The truth hit harder than any alien weapon could. Through Phoenix Dawn's neural interface, humanity finally learned why they had been forced to forget their true history. The memories flowed like a river breaking through a dam, showing scenes from a past that seemed impossible yet felt deeply familiar. Earth wasn't humanity's original home. It was their sanctuary, a backup plan created by their ancestors when they realized they couldn't win the war. Not because they were weak, but because they were too strong, too adaptable, too quick to master new technologies and abilities that other species took centuries to understand. The ship's memory banks showed scenes that took everyone's breath away. Humans had once built cities that spanned entire solar systems. They could reshape planets to suit their needs, harness the power of stars, and travel between galaxies as easily as modern humans drive between cities. But their greatest power wasn't their technology, it was their ability to learn and adapt. "Watch this," one researcher said to another, pointing at a holographic display showing ancient humans at work. When they encountered a problem, they didn't just solve it, they improved on it. When they faced a challenge, they didn't just overcome it, they evolved beyond it. Other species saw this as terrifying. Humanity's rate of advancement was unprecedented in the galaxy's history. The memories showed how fear turned to hatred. Multiple alien races formed an alliance against humanity, not because humans were evil or aggressive, but because they were too unpredictable, too quick to change and grow. The alliance claimed they were protecting the galaxy's stability. In reality, they were protecting their own power. Through Phoenix Dawn's records, they watched the Great War unfold. Humans fought brilliantly, creating new technologies and strategies faster than their enemies could counter them. But they were outnumbered hundreds to one. Their colonies fell one by one until only Earth remained, a planet so perfectly suited for human life that it seemed too good to be true. Because it was. Earth wasn't just a random planet humans found, it was engineered. The ancient humans transformed it into the perfect hiding place, a sanctuary where their children could grow up safely while their enemies believed they had won the war. Phoenix Dawn wasn't just a battleship, it was a guardian watching over humanity's long sleep. The plan was brilliant in its simplicity. Rather than face extinction, humanity chose to start over. They'd buried their technology, encoded their knowledge into their DNA, and deliberately regressed to a primitive state. Earth was their chrysalis, a place where they could quietly evolve and grow stronger, protected by their enemies' own arrogance. The alien alliance thought they had won. They set up observation posts around the solar system, watching primitive humans struggle with basic tools, never realizing it was all part of the plan. Every hardship humans faced made them stronger. Every challenge they overcame added to their potential. Even the aliens' attempts to suppress human development had an unexpected effect. It made humans even more adaptable. Now, watching the memories of their ancestors' last stand, modern humans understood the weight of their inheritance. Phoenix Dawn hadn't awakened because humanity had reached some technological milestone. It had awakened because humans had finally evolved into something their ancestors had only dreamed of, a species that could face any challenge without losing their humanity. The researchers witnessed their ancestors' final moments before the Great Sleep. They saw the hope in their eyes as they looked to the future, trusting their descendants to finish what they had started. They weren't running away from the war. They were playing the longest game in human history. As the memories faded, people around the world felt a deep connection to those ancient ancestors. They understood now why the Zarkanians and their allies were so afraid. Humanity hadn't just hidden away their technology, they had spent 100,000 years evolving in ways their enemies couldn't predict or control. The question wasn't whether humans would return to the stars. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity had become during their long sleep on Earth. As Phoenix Dawn's systems continued to awaken, the answer to that question was about to change everything. The world changed faster than anyone expected. Within days of Phoenix Dawn sharing its knowledge, military forces worldwide did something unprecedented. They started working together. Old enemies became allies. Borders became meaningless as everyone realized they were facing something bigger than their individual nations. Inside the ancient battleship, the research team watched in amazement as the vessel began upgrading itself. It wasn't just adapting to modern technology, it was teaching modern technology how to evolve. Simple smartphones started connecting to the ship's network, gaining abilities that seemed impossible. Ordinary computers began processing data in ways that broke all known laws of physics. But the biggest changes were happening in people themselves. A group of high school students in a small town built a working anti-gravity device for their science project using parts from old phones and laptops. A farmer in a remote village created a way to purify water using nothing but sound waves. People everywhere were starting to remember things they had never actually learned. The knowledge was always there, explained one of the lead researchers through a global broadcast. It was sleeping in our DNA, waiting for the right moment to wake up. Phoenix Dawn didn't give us these abilities, it just reminded us how to use what we already had. The ship's neural interface revealed something extraordinary about human biology. The brain wasn't just an organ for thinking, it was a biological quantum computer capable of processing information in ways that made the most advanced modern supercomputers look like pocket calculators. The aliens hadn't just suppressed human technology, they had been suppressing human consciousness itself. As more people connected with Phoenix Dawn's network, they discovered abilities that seemed like science fiction. Some could process information at incredible speeds, learning entire languages in days. Others found they could sense energy fields, seeing the invisible connections between all living things. Children born after the ship's awakening showed signs of abilities that even the ancient records hadn't predicted. Military leaders were amazed when they tried to integrate with the ship's defense systems. Modern weapons seemed crude compared to what Phoenix Dawn could do. The ship didn't just destroy threats, it could disable enemy weapons without harming the people using them. It could create shields that didn't just block attacks, but converted the energy into useful power. Scientists working with the ship made breakthrough after breakthrough. They learned that gravity wasn't just a force, it was a language written into the fabric of space itself, and humans could learn to speak it. They discovered that time wasn't rigid but fluid, and human consciousness could navigate its currents. Each discovery led to 10 more, in an explosion of knowledge that was transforming human civilization. But not everyone could handle the rapid changes. Some people experienced headaches and confusion as their minds tried to process abilities they weren't ready for. The ship had anticipated this, activating a network of healing chambers hidden around the world. These chambers helped people adapt safely, preventing the kind of chaos that could have torn society apart. The most stunning revelation came when they discovered how Phoenix Dawn was upgrading itself. The ship wasn't just a machine, it was alive, growing, and evolving alongside humanity. It could repair itself, improve its systems, and even create new technologies based on what it learned from modern human creativity. The ship and humanity were growing together, each making the other stronger. Through it all, the alien fleet watched from a distance, their fear growing as they witnessed something they had never seen before, a species awakening not just to its past glory, but to potential that even their ancestors hadn't imagined. Modern humans weren't just reclaiming their heritage, they were surpassing it. As more of Phoenix Dawn's systems came online and more people around the world connected with its network, one thing became clear: humanity wasn't just taking back its place among the stars. They were about to show the galaxy what happens when you try to cage something that was born to be free. The day Phoenix Dawn finally emerged from the Antarctic ice, the whole world held its breath. The ancient battleship rose like a mountain coming to life, ice sheets falling away from its massive form in chunks the size of buildings. Its surface gleamed with patterns of light that seemed to flow like rivers across its hull, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. But it wasn't just the ship that was awakening. As Phoenix Dawn took to the skies, something extraordinary happened to people everywhere. It started as a feeling, like remembering a dream you didn't know you'd had. Then the visions began, clear as day, yet somehow gentle, showing every person on Earth glimpses of their species' former glory. A young girl playing in her backyard suddenly saw crystal cities floating among the stars. A bus driver waiting at a red light found himself remembering how to pilot ships that could cross galaxies. An old man tending his garden felt the echo of worlds he'd never visited, yet somehow knew like home. The ship wasn't just showing them the past, it was reminding their DNA who they really were. Each person experienced it differently, but they all understood the same truth: humans weren't meant to be earthbound. They were children of the stars, temporarily grounded but finally ready to spread their wings again. In orbit, the Zarkanian fleet watched in horror as Phoenix Dawn rose higher. Their sensors told them something impossible. The ship was bigger on the inside than the outside, operating on principles of physics they couldn't understand. It moved in ways that defied their understanding of space and time, as if reality itself bent to accommodate its passage. The ship's ascent triggered changes in Earth's atmosphere. The energy shield that had been protecting the planet began to pulse with new patterns. Areas damaged by pollution started healing themselves. Dead zones in the oceans sprang back to life. It was as if the planet itself was celebrating humanity's reawakening. Through the neural interface, the research team learned why Phoenix Dawn had chosen this moment to reveal itself. Humanity had reached a crucial tipping point in their evolution. The very attempts to suppress human development had created pressure, like a spring being compressed. Now that pressure was released, launching humanity forward in ways even their ancestors hadn't predicted. People discovered they could share thoughts and feelings across vast distances, linking minds in ways that made the internet seem primitive. Children born after the awakening showed abilities that amazed even the ship's ancient records. They could see energy fields, understand complex physics instinctively, and communicate with the ship's systems as naturally as breathing. The Zarkanian Empire's worst fears were coming true. They had spent millennia trying to keep humanity contained, never realizing they were actually helping to create something far more powerful than what they had originally feared. Each generation of suppression had only made humans more adaptable, more resilient, more capable of extraordinary evolution. As Phoenix Dawn reached the edge of space, it did something unexpected. Instead of attacking the alien fleet, it sent out a pulse of energy that allowed every human on Earth to see what it saw. For a moment, everyone could look through the ship's sensors, seeing the true scale of the galaxy, understanding their place in it not just with their minds, but with their souls. The alien ships retreated in disarray, their carefully maintained image of superiority shattered. They had expected to find primitive beings playing with technology they didn't understand. Instead, they'd found a species awakening to powers that made their own seem limited and crude by comparison. But the most extraordinary change was happening in the hearts and minds of humans themselves. For the first time in 100,000 years, they felt complete. The vague sense that something was missing, that they were meant for more than what they knew, it all made sense now. They weren't just reclaiming lost technology or forgotten knowledge. They were remembering who they were always meant to be. As Phoenix Dawn hung in space, a bridge between Earth and the stars, humanity stood at the threshold of a new age. The question wasn't whether they would return to the stars, it was what they would do once they got there, and how they would use the extraordinary powers they were only beginning to understand. The end of our long sleep came not with a bang, but with a wave of pure understanding that swept across the planet. As Phoenix Dawn maintained its position above Earth, humanity took its first real steps into a future that was both brand new and anciently familiar. The Zarkanian fleet's retreat spread ripples through the galaxy. News traveled faster than light itself. Humanity had broken free. The species that everyone had worked so hard to contain was awake again, and they were different from anything their ancestors had been. The old powers of the galaxy began preparing for war, but they soon realized something that made their weapons useless. Humans didn't want revenge. Instead of attacking their former jailers, humanity began rebuilding. Phoenix Dawn shared its most important gift, the understanding that the universe wasn't meant to be conquered, but explored and cherished. The ship's consciousness showed humans a better way forward, one that their ancestors had been on the verge of discovering before the Great War forced them into hiding. Cities around the world transformed as people applied their awakened abilities to solving old problems. Pollution disappeared as new forms of clean energy emerged. Deserts bloomed as people learned to speak to the weather itself. Disease became a memory as humans rediscovered their body's natural ability to heal and adapt. The first new starship rose from a valley where people had once built cars. It wasn't just a copy of ancient designs. It was something new, combining humanity's rediscovered knowledge with fresh innovations that even Phoenix Dawn hadn't predicted. The ship could think, feel, and grow just like its crew, forming bonds that made it more like a living being than a machine. But the greatest changes weren't in the technology, they were in the people themselves. Children were born with natural abilities that their parents had to learn to reawaken. They could see the flows of energy that connected all living things, understand languages they'd never heard, and instinctively grasp concepts that had once seemed impossible. Through Phoenix Dawn's guidance, humanity learned how to grow without repeating old mistakes. They discovered that their greatest strength wasn't in their technology or even their amazing abilities, it was in their capacity to learn, to adapt, and to care for each other and the worlds around them. The alien races that had once feared humanity so much began to see something new in their former prisoners. Humans weren't just advancing, they were evolving in ways that offered hope for all species. Some brave souls from other worlds began seeking out human teachers, wanting to learn this new way of growing and changing that didn't require conquest or control. As the first teams of humans prepared to venture back into deep space, they carried with them not weapons of war, but gifts of knowledge and understanding. Phoenix Dawn had taught them that true power wasn't about domination, it was about creation, growth, and the wisdom to know when to use their abilities and when to help others discover their own. The ship's final gift was the most precious. It showed humanity that their long sleep on Earth hadn't been a defeat or a retreat. It had been a metamorphosis. Like a butterfly in its cocoon, humanity had used their time of limitation to transform into something more beautiful and powerful than even their ancestors could have imagined. Standing on the threshold of their new beginning, humans looked to the stars not with thoughts of revenge or conquest, but with wonder and joy. They had advanced beyond the need for empire building or dominion over others. Their destiny wasn't to rule the galaxy, it was to help it grow, to share what they had learned during their long journey from forgetting to remembrance. Phoenix Dawn still floats above our world, no longer just a battleship, but a symbol of humanity's transformation. Its presence reminds us daily that we are not bound by our past or limited by our present. We are creatures of infinite potential, constantly growing, always reaching for new horizons. And this time, as we return to the stars, we go not as conquerors or victims, but as enlightened explorers, ready to help write the next chapter in the story of life in our vast and wonderful universe.